Right, so again, in my local neighbourhood of Tottenham, but I'm at a location that so many people don't know about. Now, this blue plaque behind me, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to lift it up a little bit and go up towards the plaque so you guys can see it. You guys can see that. So hopefully you guys can see that. I'm just lifting it up so you can see it. So it's Walter Tull. It's a blue plaque for Walter Tull. And Walter Tull is a very, very important individual. And in my opinion, I believe that Tottenham Hotspurs should have a statue commemorating Walter Tull outside the stadium, the main road, for many reasons. Now, Walter Tull, a little bit of background about him. His dad was from Barbados and he was born in Felixstowe. In 1889, on a fishing trip, his dad used to work as a fisherman. He's tragically lost his life whilst fishing, and Walter and his older brother, 9 and 11, they had to go and live in an orphanage home. His brother went on to go and stay with a Scottish family and trained to become a doctor. Walter stayed in England, went to London, done an apprenticeship, and was very, very, very good at sports and excelled in football. And he played for Clapton FC. Now, from Clapton FC, Walter ended up being signed by Northampton and played for Northampton just at the turn of the century. And he made a big money move from Northampton to Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, whilst playing for Tottenham Hotspurs, he did face some racial abuse and some discrimination, but he also excelled and was very, very highly decorated as a football player. And this all coming towards 1914, where at the beginning of the First World War, Walter decided to sign up for the army. Now, when Walter signed up for the army, in 1915, he had been recommended by fellow colleagues and soldiers to do officer training. Now, we went up to Scotland and done officer training. And whilst he was doing his officer training, there was some issues amongst the ranks of the officer class in the British Army, whether or not somebody of mixed race heritage, somebody of African heritage, Caribbean heritage, should be an officer in the British Army giving orders and instructions to white soldiers. And there was a lot of controversy around his appointment. Now, Walter eventually was recommended by his supporters to become an officer, and he became a second lieutenant. Now, not only was Walter Tull the first black officer in the British Army, he was also the first professional footballer of any colour nationality to become an officer in the British Army. Remember, they had military regiments made up of footballers and other sports people that had joined the army, but no one thus to that date had become an officer. So in 1915, Walter was made a second lieutenant, and during his duties, he was on a raid on an Italian trench position in World War One, and unfortunately, whilst attempting to rescue one of his soldiers, his comrades, he was cut down by machine gun fire, and he tragically died. So Walter Tull is remembered by the military class, and he's also remembered by professional sports people. And this blue plaque here signifies Walter Tull and what he represents. And I believe that Walter Tull a statue should be made of him and should be put outside of the main stadium to kind of represent what Walter Tull stood for. Yeah? So again, Walter Tull, the first black officer in the British Army, and the first professional footballer of any colour, any description, to be made an officer in the British Army. Okay, and that was during the First World War. So check this out, and we'll be covering the game tonight. Tottenham Hotspurs will be hosting Manchester City.